At this point, if you're building alongside me, you should have fabricated the neck, the fretboard, the sides, the top, and the back. And when you pull these individual components together, the whole thing should look something like this. Before we begin assembling these parts, let's fabricate one final part, the bridge. We will rough out the bridge from a hardwood block, in this case rosewood. It is common practice to use the same wood you used for the fretboard. Like the fretboard, the bridge will remain unfinished and exposed to elements and wear. So the same considerations that affect your choice of fretboard wood also affect your choice of wood for the bridge. Furthermore, aesthetically, it just makes sense for the bridge to match the color and grain of the fretboard. Many steel string guitar plans offer a bridge shape like this. Making a Martin-style bridge template is actually very easy. Transfer the shape and the locations of the pinholes from your plans. Then plane or sand down to the line on all 4 of the flat faces. Then the round on the wings can be sanded to a perfect contour on the drum sander. For the holes at the pinhole locations, use the same 3/32 of an inch bit that you used for the headstock template, so that you can mount the template with screws. Okay, let's get started. First, I trace the template onto the block. And I cut outside the lines on the bandsaw. I stay about a 32nd of an inch off the line. The rest will be trimmed on the router table. I attached the template in the same way that we attached the headstock template in a previous lesson. First, by sticking the template to the block with double stick tape. Now to transfer the template holes to the block, I lower the drill bit into the first template hole until it bottoms out on the block. Then I lock the stop collar on the drill press so that the bit holds in this position. I start the drill and slowly drill through the block. I repeat this process for the remaining 5 holes. As the bit exits the wood on the other side, it leaves tiny mounds of tear out. It is a good idea to sand these back so that the bridge can rest flat on the router table. Okay, remember these bolts from the headstock routing lesson? Well, I also use them to secure the bridge template. You could have a bolt in all 6 holes, but it's not really necessary. I just use 2 bolts in the E-string holes. The bolts, of course, are appropriately sized for the 3/32 of an inch holes. I screw the bolts in place. I set the height of my router bit so that the guide bearing will run along the template. By the way, this is the same 1/2 inch straight cut bit from headstock routing, and other routing operations. Okay, nobody wants to lose a finger over this. I use a long cam clamp as a sort of handle so that I don't have to hold the workpiece, which is way too small to safely route with just your hands on the template. I follow the same general rules for routing as I did in the headstock routing lesson. I mind both the direction of the rotating bit and the direction that the grain exits the workpiece. This is an area with potential for router bit tear out or kickback, due to the direction of the rotating bit and the direction that the grain exits the workpiece. So I routed all the safe areas around it first, and now come back to this area to carefully clear little bits at a time. Of course, I have to flip the workpiece around in the cam clamp to get to the other side. Now I can remove the template. As always, a heated spatula is used to separate the double stick tape. Next, I mark out for the beginning of the contour on the wings. I make a mark 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the E-string holes on each side, and I square the marks off of the flat edge of the bridge. This is my do not exceed line, because if the contour goes past this line, it will clash with the chamfer that we will put on the bridge pin holes later. I carry this squared line onto the side of the bridge. The wings will contour down to 1/8 of an inch. I use a piece of scrap that I know to be 1/8 of an inch in thickness to quickly and accurately make 1/8 of an inch mark on the side of each wing. Now I freehand the curve on each side. And I could take this straight to the drum sander, but that would be a lot of sanding. So I first cut the bulk of the material off at the bandsaw, staying a good 1/16 of an inch or more off of the line. I use my 1/8 of an inch scrap material again to set the depth of my drum sander. Then I press the bridge wing into the drum until it sands close to that do not exceed line that I made. It is important to note that I am pushing the bridge against the rotation of the drum, not with it. The sander leaves a nice smooth contour. Okay, the last thing I want to do is follow the 3/32 of an inch holes with a 3/16 of an inch bit, so that with a little bit of reaming later, the holes will fit the bridge pins. The trick here is to hold the bridge loosely while the rounded end of the bit finds the center of the hole you've already made. If you are holding the bridge just slightly off, but with a loose grip, then the spinning bit can pull the bridge into alignment. Once I feel the bridge being pulled into alignment, then I grip it firmly and lower the bit through the workpiece. That's enough bridge work for now. This is what I call a rough bridge. Leveling, chamfering the holes, beveling the back edge, and smoothing comes later, after we glue the bridge to the top.